we had a free trade agreement, and you know, natural gas is coming to America from Mexico,
Yes.
and probably some oil too.
Yes, a lot.
And we're selling a lot of oil and gas and electricity to United States. The question is that this oil that we produce in Canada, it's out of this oil sand. And of course, it's not pumping oil. It is a big manufacturing process involving a lot of investment, you know, to produce a barrel of oil. So now the oil is there. And suddenly we're told that the American market is probably not a market. So the Prime Minister said, if you don't want to buy it, I will sell it to the Chinese. And if you want my view, as if I'm an American, I would rather have oil from Canada than from the Middle East. But you want my view here, the problem you have in America is your political system. No. You have congressmen elected every 2 years. A president every 6 years, and senator every 4 years, president, and 6 years. So you're always in election. And you have little windows to move. While in a system like ours, in Canada, the Prime Minister is both the legislative and the executive of the administration. And so when a government decides something in our system, that is the British system, decisions are made quickly. I was listening last night or 2 nights ago about the budget of the president. But he proposed a budget, takes about 1.5 years to approve it, and when it's approved, there's nothing in there that was in the first budget, usually. In Canada, the government gets up the night of the budget, the Minister of Finance, you remember one day I was Minister of Finance, and a friend of mine had invited some people to listen to the budget speech of the Canadian government. I got up, and I would say, tonight, at midnight, this tax will go up, and the other tax will go down. Because is he serious? Oh yes. Say mean business, your friend. You know, but it's a system. After that, the Parliament approve it. But if the Parliament does not approve it, the member of Parliament have to go to an election. So he's just been elected. If he votes against the budget, he's going to campaign again. So he'd rather stay there for 4 or 5 years. So that is the equilibrium we have. But our government in Canada, when the Prime Minister commit the nation, that means that the nation will do it, unless there is very unusual circumstances. So I'm sorry but it's my right of talking to you because my father was living in Manchester more than 100 years ago.
Let me extend on this issue. I think it's a key issue that we must all think about. We also come in Mexico from a presidential system. 3 branches of power that are supposed to be in balance, and that structure is supposed to give us quick answers and decisions in front of problems. As of today, in Mexico, in the last 18 years, President Cedillo's term, President Fox, and President Calderon, we have not been able to reach a decision on key strategic issues like the oil, like the fiscal system, like the labor system. 18 years we have delayed decisions that were absolutely urgent for the nation to move ahead. This nation, presidential system, 3 branches of power in permanent and constant debate as well as conflict. Those of us who watch from outside and see what's going on here, what we say is a warning you must reach consensus and decisions. Otherwise, time goes by and things get complicated. The matter of the deficit, the matter of the debt of this nation, and different other matters that are urgent to decide upon are not being reached. Republicans, Democrats, keep in conflict. And nobody thinks about the nation. You think about your own partisan interest. And the relationship between Congress, when it has a majority of one party, and the presidency that is on a different party, you see what's going on in here. So, in Central Fox, we debate every day the advantages and the disadvantages of each of the two systems. This system, the Prime Minister is generated by the majority vote of Parliament. So they decide who is going to be the Prime Minister. And many times it could even be that the majority in Congress or Parliament would not be the same party than the Prime Minister. It usually happens that it's the same. But if not, it doesn't matter. So they are forced to reach decisions. And Congress relies on the Prime Minister and has trust on him that he will decide and take the best decisions for the nation. And they are always willing to support those decisions. So the thing here is that it seems to be much faster. And there's a lot of people from the business community here. It's much faster to reach decisions under the parliamentarian system than under our presidential systems. So at least in Mexico, I am, together with Martha, on a crusade in trying to bring up to public debate this issue that I think is of key importance to the future. It's not possible that we keep delaying decisions because we don't come to an agreement, because we don't reach majority or consensus. The way to move ahead is decision-making, and it's consensus to move all the energy of the nation behind. So I think that we should keep questioning ourselves. What can take us to move fast? And let me add here one more thing. What I see in this nation and what I see in my dear Mexico is that the private sector is sitting on the back chair. And the driver's seat is taken by politicians and government. That is not necessarily the best way of building a future. I think society, citizenship, private sector should take a seat on the front and should make sure that politicians take the right decisions, because frequently they don't take them, like it happened in Europe, and they're paying the consequences. I would alert and invite the private sector to be active, to sit on the driving chair of the car.
Oh, for me, I have sympathy for a president of a country because basically they cannot move things forward as they should. For us in '95, when I became prime minister, I'd been in the government 30 years before I became prime minister. So I said, I will fix the problem. If I'm a one-termer, I will be happy, but I'll fix it. So the year '95, the budget, for the next 3 years, we cut the budget by 19%. We let go 20%. We let go 19% of the bureaucrats, but not in a very brutal way. We accelerated the pension with no penalty. We gave some, we did not hire for a while, and attrition and so on. For 2-3 years, it was tough. But I have to tell you that being in the House of Commons every day, replying to questions, never have been obliged to say this. We did not do that because we didn't have enough bureaucrats. Never happened. And we had cut 19% of them. And I thought I was to be defeated. One of my ministers, when I announced my program in the cabinet, he called his wife. He said, "Darling, I will be defeated next election if the Prime Minister do what he wants to do. I'm going back to the farm," he said. He was a farmer. He's still a member of Parliament. And my government got re-elected twice. After that, with majority government, that is kind of difficult in Canada. You have to trust the judgment of the people. People are no fool. And when I don't want to blame anybody, but when I watch, because we're in Canada, you know, we switch the TV all the time. And we hit you guys, you know, once in a while with that. And everybody wants to cut taxes. We're cutting taxes. You know, you cannot do that when you're in debt. You have to pay your debt. You know, it is not very complicated. And the spread between the rich and the poor is too big. You know, I'm paying much more taxes now, a lot more than the salary I was making as Prime Minister. And I'm very happy to do that. My banker is happy and my wife too. You know, it's a local politics. You know, I don't want to intervene. I'd like to, but I want to go back alive. Oh. Now the problem is, yes, but in a society, you have to make that type of decision. You know, what I understand, I'm not from here, but there is some people who seem to have genuine concern that could cause a problem with the trail that they've selected. Is it true? Some say that if they have not done there, but 50 miles more west or 100 miles more west, it will be more acceptable. In situations like that, sometimes it takes years to be able to reach a decision, especially when you have experts in contradiction. And it's very dangerous for a politician to dismiss one argument without giving the full consideration. So my view is that I think they will find a way to have it. Because you know the alternative. You know, the Prime Minister did what he had to do. You know, he always blamed me, I was too friendly with the Chinese. Now he's there, you know, in all humility in China. But because it's the reality, we have to sell our oil. And eventually, if you need it, you will find a way to get it. I think you're intelligent, it's what you will do. But the pipe might be smaller, and it might be at a different place. I don't know. I'm not an expert. But I met some guys tonight, you know, works for a pipelines company in Canada who are here. So they might help you to find the right way to go. You know, for a Canadian, it's easy. We're doing better than you guys. We have less rich people relatively in America, and we have less poor people in America. And, you know, we have a good safety net in Canada that works pretty well. We have the highest level of graduate of university per capita in the world. But in Canada, you know, the equality is a bigger problem, you know, into political debate. But it's coming here. When you have Warren Buffett complaining that he's not paying enough tax, I'm happy with that. Yes. If you live in a society, you have to pay your share for the society to function. There is no miracle in that. And you will die one day, and your hearse would not be followed by your safe. You know, you have to share in society. You know, I don't want to lecture you, but it is the way a society. You know, the mayor, she's been elected 7 months ago. She's been serving, assessing your property. Many of you guys were unhappy with her because she evaluated your house too high because the mayor needed money. Why? Because they had to build roads, they had to build sewer system, they have to build park, and somebody has to pay for that. So we have to be realists in life. So in Canada, we have less poor and less rich. And we have a very good system of education, and we have a Medicare that works. But I don't want to not get involved in your Medicare problem here tonight. So I will leave it to Vincent to complete my intervention.
Well, let me tell you, I think that goodwill, compassion, love could be one way to go, but it's a dream. It's the impossible dream. So the state governments have to have clear cut policies for distributing income. And if we look at the world and see where income is distributed the best, one place would be Europe. But Europe has tax rates that collect up to 40% of gross product. And then you have the system where you get into trouble, as John says, because then the allocation of that resource not necessarily is complying with the objective of distributing income. So it has to be the state, it has to be government with wise attitude, but also with a determinant spirit to distribute income. And none of us like that being done through enforcement. And so we appeal to doing it voluntarily. But that doesn't work. That doesn't work. So the only way I can think of better distribution of income is strong, clear government interventions, and number two, education. And maybe that's the best way out. There is no other way to change a nation in one generation than through education. That's the way to go.
For us, we welcome a lot of Mexican and other Latin Americans as seasonal workers. Of course, we don't need them to pick up apples in the winter, and so they come in the summer. And but they come and go, and their operation is kind of regulated. They have to be paid a certain level of compensation. The minimum wage has to be respected. There's always an inspector about the living condition of those people. And when they have finished their season, they go back home. And they're kind of happy, because when they go back home, they go with a bunch of snowbirds who are going there anyway from Canada. Because many Canadians are going to Mexico or Florida or even Texas in the winter. So they go back home. The system is working well. The immigrants, we receive 1% relatively of new citizens a year in Canada. That is the policies of all governments. And in Canada, we have on our immigration policy a great consensus. We never discuss in political debate immigration. The left, the right, the center, we all agree that immigration is good for Canada and that we need immigration. That, we need the people, because the growing older of the population, we need more taxpayers. And an immigrant is an asset. It's not a problem. The minute an immigrant comes in your land, he becomes a consumer the first hour. He needs a lunch. After that, he will rent a place, he will buy furniture, he will buy a car, he will buy a house. For 10 years, he's a great consumer, and most of the time, he's already educated. So you don't have to spend money to have him there. So it's an asset. It's not a problem. Of course, in Canada, the mix of population is working well. We have 25%, 23% of the population speaking French, the rest speaking English. And so we're used to have to make compromise. But now, in Canada, 50% of the population are from first, second, or third generation of immigrants. So the people from the British Islands represent about 28, 27, and we, the Francophone, 22, 23. The rest are all immigrants from Europe, and now mostly they come from China, they come from Vietnam, they come a lot from the Philippines, and a lot from the Latin American nation. Of course, when you come from the Latin American nation, you find it very difficult to have to work in the snow. But they get used to it.
Okay, a word here. I think it's temporary working programs are great because they bring in a framework. You have the rules, you have the procedures, and you know how to go about it, both sides. And that partially is true here in this nation, in the United States. But it's still the huge amount of 500,000 new workers needed every year when this economy is running at a pace of 2.5%. It's not been this last 4 or 5 years, but it will come back. And then we should have a framework, regulations, so that we administrate this issue orderly. And that's all the claim of Mexico, that we should have a framework so that everybody knows the rules of the game. Number two, NAFTA. NAFTA, to me, today is the most powerful instrument we have at hand to protect our jobs, Mexico, United States, and Canada, because all three of us are losing jobs to the east. Number two is the greatest instrument we have at hand to come back to growth in our economies, because what we're doing through NAFTA is adding the competitiveness of each of the nations to put it together and compete against other economic blocs in the world. And unfortunately, right now, NAFTA is dormant. The actual administration of this nation does not believe in outsourcing or is not convinced that trading brings jobs to both parties that trade. In the case of Mexico, we're too busy trying to eradicate the problem of violence and crime, and we're not attending the real instruments that we have to create wealth, to create jobs. So fortunately, yesterday in our luncheon, in our meeting with President Bush, Prime Minister Chretien, and myself, we decided that we should put an effort in trying to bring back NAFTA to life, to re-energize this instrument, to make sure that we have a new vision and that we use it for moving our economies and to meet the challenge of the East. And pretty soon you will hear about us, because this might be the place where the three of us will be together promoting this economic instrument that is highly needed today on the difficulties that the world is going through.
Can we take maybe one more question?
You know, I'm an outsider in a way because in Canada is a smaller country, but listening to President Fox, and you know, one of the biggest problems, we always refer to this problem as a Mexican problem. And it's very sad when I hear him say, we're just caught in between. We are the roadway for the drugs to come to America and Canada, and we have all the problems. That is very sad. And I wake up to that reality that we don't debate, at least in Canada, enough of the problem we have to be the consumers of these drugs. You know, you talk about prohibition at one time. Was it the solution? I don't know. You know, at one time we contemplated in Canada to legalize marijuana. You know, in your country, you don't put in jail people who use drugs. You punish those who are the traders and profit from that. But we have to think hard about, you know, what we can do in Canada, and I presume here in the United States, to reduce the consumption of that. You know, we saw the great star dying 2 days ago, completely devastated by drugs. What a sad story it was. And, you know, and we see that on a daily basis in our societies. And we're negligent, not fighting the problem in Canada, and I have to say in America, to stop the utilization of those drugs that kill great human beings.
Extending a little bit on the issue, this is my own thinking. Number one, prohibitions do not work. It didn't work in the Garden of Eden with the forbidden apple. Today, in most of our constitutions, prohibitions being removed, like abortion, like marriage between persons of the same sex, like alcohol, like cigarette smoking, and others. I think that maybe the last frontier of prohibitions, we have assigned it to the issue of drugs. And the reason behind is because it's harmful to your health and it kills you. But same happens with alcohol or with cigarettes. So we must reflect and think about this prohibition. Those nations that have moved ahead, like Portugal, that 10 years ago legalized the use of drugs. And the end result on a Cato Institute report, Cato Institute is in Washington, D.C., has a great reputation, and what they have concluded is that drug consumption in Portugal after those 10 years was reduced by 25%. The case of Holland, a lot of debate around Holland, but at the very end, the consumption of drugs has not increased. And if any increase is there, it's because people coming from abroad that come to consume and they go back to their nation. California now, in the latest referendum, 44% of adult citizens in California approved the legalization in the case of marijuana, or recommended on that referendum. The latest poll on Gallup Corporation in the United States shows that 50% of citizens are in agreement to legalize the use of marijuana. 14 states of the Union have approved now in their legal structure the use of drugs, all drugs, for medical purposes. And when you come back to think about the past and the history of this, for centuries and millennia, drugs were not forbidden. And it was in this nation where people came because of religious motives to come with a prohibition of drugs. And since then, 100 years ago, it's been prohibited. And the question is if this is the right strategy today. Because in the case of alcohol, back in the 20s, 100 years ago, only until prohibition was removed, the solution of violence came. And finally, an ethical and moral argument. Whose responsibility it is to harm my own health, my own brain, consuming either drugs or alcohol? It is my own self-responsibility in the use of my freedom of choice. And the state should not come in and limit my freedom of choice. And that's a very important issue. Women have claimed in the case of abortion, the state does not have the right to come and limit the way I use my own body and the way I use and take my own decisions. So there's moral issues involved, ethical issues involved, and the only thing I'm saying is we should be more open to discuss these issues and not just say it's prohibited and that's it, because that's not working. This problem is extending now to Central America. Yesterday, 350 or more jail people died on a fire in the jail. And this is just the result of the fight among cartels and the way they're killing each other. I don't know how far we're going to keep going on this. But fortunately, society, citizens, institutions, intelligent people are now claiming a better solution to this problem through other ways than just enforcement. So for Mexico, my position today is let's proceed to discuss legalization. All drugs, not just some. Number two, we should get the army out of the streets. The armies are not prepared to do policing work. Armies are for national security, and under the claim of national security, they violate human rights every other day. The US Army, the Mexican Army, the Iraqi Army, they violate human rights every day. And number two, they violate the due legal justice procedure that we all citizens should be subject to. As you see in Mexico every day, they come out with some guy there and say he is responsible for this, this, and this, so he will go to jail. He has not even been presented to the Ministerio Público, to the attorney at law. He has not been presented to a judge, and he's already been judged and presented guilty in front of the nation. I think that will bring in a lot of complications to our nation, the way we're applying justice on the sake of bringing peace. I think we will not enjoy peace unless we respect human rights and unless we respect the due judiciary process. And we're losing liberties. Benjamin Franklin wrote, "Those who cede small spaces of freedom with the objective of reaching peace and enjoying freedom, they will never get either one. They will never enjoy either freedom or peace if they cede spaces of liberty." And this is the nation of liberty, of freedom, and has defended those values all along. So on the sake of eliminating cartels, we cannot violate human rights and forget about freedom. Gracias.
I'd like to do something a little bit different and totally unplanned. I hope you don't mind, Prime Minister and Mr. President. I would like to hear just a salutation from the two First Ladies. If they would just, if we could pass them the microphone and just say hello to everybody.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you to all of you. It's always very nice to be here chairing these wonderful conferences here in Fort Worth, Texas, and sharing with you wonderful people that make this happen. So I think to have this kind of conferences to be able to reflect about so interesting issues about the global situation about our own situation in our own countries, about our own families, because it has to do with our own families, is a great, great opportunity. And to share with you young people, to be at the university during the morning, and to learn every day, because we also come here to learn. So thank you very much for this great opportunity. Come and visit us at home. All of you are always welcome to come to visit Centro Fox. You are going to be really surprised of everything that is happening there. And thank you for your generosity, and thank you for this really great opportunity to share with you. Thank you, Prime Minister Jean Chretien. It's wonderful to hear you. It's wonderful to remember all the experiences that we had together when you were in power, together with Vicente. And Aline, thank you very much. And Aline is a great, fantastic, fantastic lady. So please, Madame Chretien, please.
Thank you, Martita.
Thank you I want to thank you for being here. Mr. and Mrs. Fox are a very good friend of us. We used to be together in many meetings. And I might be fantastic, but I don't talk in public very often. It's my husband who does the talking. And tonight I was very proud to be here. Those men made me proud because they did very well. And I hope I'll come back again. I don't come very often around here, and I think I had a good time. And thank you again, and I hope you had a great evening. Thank you.
We have had a wonderful, wonderful conversation tonight. These conversations are all about the kids that we're trying to create educational programs for, and for the teachers. And I wanted you to see the faces, really, of those that are important to us. Thank you very much. I'd like for you to come up and please say hello to the Prime Minister and to the President. Thank you very much. See you April 25th. God bless you.
Thank you, John.